All right. Good morning, everybody. Today's session is about how to get buyers exclusive agreements. We're going to talk about the buyer's consultation appointment, why it should be done, how to do it. Not too much details because that by itself is a boot camp. So we can't do, a full day boot camp and squeeze it into an hour of training. But I'm going to give you the concept and we're going to talk about some of the ideas. So we're going to talk about converting buyers into actual contracts. Most top producers use a step-by-step buyer consultation, and a lot of people that join our industry who thinks that this industry is easy, like, oh yeah, I can just go in, get my license, work some buyer, do some deals, and make some easy cash. They're going to have a surprise when they join our industry, which you guys already know. But if you are planning your business and managing it like a business professionally, then everything has a process. Everything has step one, step two, step three, step four. You're moving between different steps inside your funnel, your sales funnel. Leads are coming in at the top. And the more you build your skills, the wider you can, grow your funnel. And the wider the funnel is, the more deals you can have. So let's pay attention to what our producers do. The buyer's consultation meeting is actually designed to build a commitment between the agent and the buyer, building expectations. And one of the main issues in any relationship is miscommunication. And when there is any issue with a deal, it's always, if you investigate, it always comes down to miscommunication. One of the biggest complaints for sell by owners or expired listings is that agents don't keep in touch with the sellers. That's why they prefer to do this themselves. So communication is probably the most important thing. That's why we want to handle it right at the beginning of each conversation. You talk about what am I expecting from you as Mr. and Mrs. Seller, and what you should be expecting from me. What's your expectations of me during this, relationship? And then you talk about that. You bring out all the points that are important for the client, and then you talk about it. It's a conversation. So the buyer's consultation is an actual meeting when you meet with the buyers and you're asking them a lot of questions about what they're looking for, what the motives are, what happens if you don't find the house they're looking for, what can they be more flexible on, depending. So when we get to the conversation, to the actual script, you will see more details. A buyer's exclusive agreement is actually signed with all potential buyers. This is how top producers work. As a matter of fact, I never worked with buyers before they sign exclusive. The only buyers who did not sign exclusive working with us, when I say with us, is me and my team members, is when it was an investor. And the investors normally are not going to sign exclusive. It makes no sense for them to do so. Therefore, we're not going to ask them to do it. But that's a different concept. It's a different, business. It's basically different training, because we're not talking right now about investors. We're talking solely about home buyers. All right. A home buyer exclusive is a win-win relationship when both parties are committed to the relationship. You're going to put in the time necessary to look and locate the right property, and they're going to put the time necessary to work with you and no one else. The exclusive agreement actually ensures that the buyer is motivated, serious, and ready to buy. Did I have issues with buyers that did not want to sign exclusive? Of course. But then I would just say next and move on to the next client. What I would do for them is just show them the house they called me for. I'll leave my office, go with them, show them the house, and I'm done with my commitment. And sometimes they'll put an offer on that house. But I just found it that if a buyer is not willing to sign exclusive to work with me for whatever reason, I just don't have the time to work with them. I'm definitely not going to show them houses when they have no commitment. So let's talk real quickly about why you should sign exclusive agreement. Many agents out there who tend to be mediocre, which we're talking 80% of agents, don't go for the exclusive buyer agreement. They just get a lead of a buyer. They contact the buyer. They ask them if they're qualified. They ask them at least to see pre-qualifications. And some agents don't even ask to do that. For example, I gave a lead like 2 weeks ago to one of our agents. I gave this person a lead of a buyer that was looking to purchase something in downtown Providence. They were looking for a loft, and they had a good budget of 750,000. So when the agent was asking for a pre-approval, the buyer said, "Well, we don't want to give you a pre-approval before we find something that we like." Now, if a buyer told me that, I'm going to try to dig in to find out what's the issue, why they don't want to give me a pre-approval, like what's the point? If you go right now and you find, say you found something you really like, you put an offer. Now you need to go and pre-approve yourself. By the time you go pre-approve yourself, suddenly the pre-approval comes back lower than your offer. What happens then? You can't purchase. The seller is not going to agree to do the deal. Another thing can happen. By the time you go and pre-approve yourself, sometimes it takes longer than you think. And, it can take a day, 2 days, 3 days sometimes, depending on if you're fixing your credit, where you are with that, and, all kinds of different components. So when you are working with someone, yes, you can get a pre-approval within 2 hours. So some, buyers might, have an argument about this, and I would just move on next. That's me. I move on next because I don't work buyers. I am focusing the majority of my business on listings, and the buyers that I do work with, they sign exclusive and they follow my system. So what happens in the consultation, let's talk about that and we'll go back to what happened there. But just to summarize, when we gave the lead, the agent tried to pre-approve them. They did not agree to get pre-approved with a mortgage, therefore they went to a different agent. So many agents, 80% of agents, don't get buyers exclusive. They don't even ask buyers if they're pre-approved. They just take the buyer immediately and they show them houses without even knowing if they have the money or the means to purchase a house. To me, that's, beyond dumb. That's how I call it. I think it's stupid and dumb to go and take a buyer without pre-approving them, without even knowing what they're looking for. So, thank you for calling for this listing. Yes, I'm going to be the one showing you. Let's meet tomorrow there at 4 p.m. And then they go there, they meet the buyer. They don't have any information about these people. They just go show the house. And then after that, we'll be in touch. We'll let you know. Okay, let me just get your email address and I'll send you other things that we have right now available, And then they work with this person 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. They're spending time searching, going out there, showing houses, and suddenly the agent is getting a phone call from the buyer saying, "Hey, we just want to let you know that we already found a house with another agent, or we already found a house at an open house, or we're not working with you anymore," basically. And the agent just wasted 4 weeks of working. Now, how do you think that I came up with signing buyers exclusives? I came up with it because at the beginning of my career, I did go out and I did burn myself because I was hungry. I wanted to make money. So I took out whoever. And I very quickly realized that was the most unproductive decision I've ever made in my career. All right, let's jump into the consultation session. So it's a face-to-face meeting. Today you can do it on Zoom, which is awesome. Back then we didn't have that. The best place to meet is in your office. Right now you can switch that. The best place to meet is actually on Zoom. There is no reason to meet with them at the property before you do a consultation. Make sure all decision makers are there. So you're not just going to meet with the husband or the wife. You want to meet both parties that are involved in the transaction. You want to also make sure that they bring their pre-approval letter, so they must be pre-approved before you even show them anything or sign the exclusive agreement. The first meeting with the buyer is a walkthrough process. What does that mean? You're going to walk the buyers through the purchase process and explain every step, especially if it's a first-time home buyer. When you go through the steps of purchasing and you're talking to an experienced buyer, someone who already bought and sold a couple of homes, you can skip some of these steps, but that happens when you're in the process and you look at the prospect, and you can very easily figure out that or they're getting bored with your presentation, or they're just telling you, "Look, dude, it's not the first time we're purchasing." So you can actually skip a couple of steps, but you're not going to skip your entire process. Okay? You're going to ask qualified questions, which you're going to ask everybody if they're first-time home buyers or 50-time home buyers, and you're going to seek to find motivation and readiness to buy. By asking questions, you're going to actually figure things out fairly quickly. You also need to explain the relationship and clarify expectations. That is, in my opinion, one of the most important things. Like, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I just want you to know before we start working together, I'd like to figure out what your expectations of me as your agent. And by the way, when you start talking to them like that, like as your agent, they start thinking about you as their agent. So I say, before we start working, before you actually work with me as your agent, I would like to ask you some questions, and I also would like to ask you about your expectations of me as your agent. Do you have expectations from me? Like, what would you like me to do for you? And then you just write down what they're saying. And if it's not a match with your services, you have to tell them right off the bat. Okay, so you guys want me to do something for, I don't know, it doesn't come to my mind right now, but let's say they want you to do something you don't do. Like, for example, we want you to take us to all the open houses, in your market every weekend. I don't do open houses. So I will tell them that this is something I don't do. And if it's a problem, then we need to talk about it right now. I mean, I can send you to addresses of open houses if you wish, but I'm not going to just drive by any open house if it's not a good match to what you guys are looking for. And then you're going to go over a lot of questions. And once you ask the questions, you're going to figure things out. They will also figure things out as you go through this process. That's why it's super important for you to conduct the consultation process and not to skip it. You will discover that exactly what the buyers need and what they actually want. So there is a need versus wanting. We have to talk about that, and then you're going to prioritize these things on a scale of 1 to 10. Just to give you some examples. Say someone tells me, we're looking for a 3-bedroom house with 2 baths, 1 car garage. It has to be in XYZ neighborhood. And we need to have a backyard, and we need to have a finished basement. So then I'm going to ask some questions. Okay, what's the finished basement for? And they might tell you, well, we have our in-laws coming in every weekend. We need a unit for them, and they will explain what the needs are. And then maybe throughout this presentation, I would figure out that maybe a 2-family would be a better choice, and I would introduce the idea. So you're going to ask them a lot of questions, and you're going to explain specifically what you do to help them in the process. So, for example, one of the things I do every morning, I look at the hot sheets on MLS. I look at all the new listings immediately. I go right in it and I take a look at all the details. I watch all the pictures. If they have any videos, I would figure things out based on what you guys are telling me. And I would know immediately if it's a good match for you or not. And I'm not going to drag you to houses that are not a good match just to show you, houses so you feel that I'm working. I will show you things that, based on what you guys are telling me right now. You also want to connect them with a mortgage representative. If they don't have an attorney, you want to connect them with an attorney. And if they're already approved, you want to call the mortgage broker and make a discovery of their pre-qualification, how they determine that they're qualified. So it's not enough to get a pre-qualified letter from a mortgage broker, because many mortgage brokers can give it to them because they're friends. I would like to know how the pre-qualifications was actually made, how it was determined that this, buyer. Sometimes, mortgage brokers can give a pre-qualification, which is not a pre-approval. These are 2 different things. Pre-qualify and pre-approval are completely 2 different things. I prefer if the buyers are pre-approved, which means they had their credit report run, they had their income shown, etc. So you have a lot more details, and it's more of a sure buyer versus, maybe. So anyways, a lot of people talk about teams. When I talk about a team, I'm not necessarily saying, oh, you're getting some buyers agents. I'm not talking about that. When I say your team of professionals, I'm talking about you need to have a couple of attorneys that you trust and work with. You need to have a couple of mortgage brokers you trust and work with. You need to have a couple of home inspectors that you trust and work with. And basically, for every step in the process, you need to have multiple options for these buyers. Okay, if you work in an area that people speak another language, okay, bilingual area. For example, if you're looking into an Hispanic neighborhood and your buyer don't speak very good English, you want to hook them up with a mortgage broker who speaks Spanish. You have to, assemble all these different components in your business. And when you're doing your consultation, you have to talk about all that stuff. When you work with me, I can connect you with additional resources. Even if you have an attorney, I can connect you with someone that can give you, maybe a better price or maybe better services, someone I trust and work with. I can give you a couple of names for mortgage brokers. I can give you a couple of names for a home inspector, etc., etc. So you want to make a connection between them and everyone on your team. When you do that, you are building trust in addition to other things. All right, let's go over quickly. You can take a snapshot of this page, or you can write it down. These are some of the qualifying questions, because sometimes when you ask one question, it opens up a sub question, and then you go back to your qualifying questions. So the first question is obviously, when do you plan on moving? And the answer can open you up to maybe 3-4 different directions. Are you currently renting or you own? If they currently own, the next question is, do you need to sell your house in order to purchase, or what you're going to do with the house? Are you renting it? Is it on the market? Do you need help selling it? Many times when I was in a buyer consultation, I actually picked up a listing just by asking that question. If you skip this question, you're not going to get the listing. Someone else will probably pick it up. Now, if they rent and they don't own, you want to ask them, when is your lease expiring? You want to know if they need to break a lease. Sometimes there are issues with breaking a lease. They need to know about these issues. You need to make a small discussion about it. And then if they own, obviously, I already said, you need to ask them if they want to sell, if they need to sell. Have you been pre-approved by a mortgage company? And if you're pre-approved already, what is the pre-approval for? Like, what's the price? Now, many buyers are pre-approved for $500,000, and then they tell you, but I'm approved for $500,000, but I want to buy a house for $300,000. So that's a question mark that I always, I was always wondering. Like, so then the question is, are you guys downsizing? Like, what's the issue? And then what I would do is, if I have a buyer that's pre-approved for $500,000 and he's putting an offer on a house for $350,000, I'm going to ask them to get me a new pre-approval that says that they're pre-approved up to $350,000. Because if they're pre-approved up to $500,000, the seller is going to say, well, these guys are pre-approved up to $500,000. My house is listed for $389,000. You're offering me $350,000. It doesn't fly well. So you got to adjust accordingly. How soon do you want to find and buy a property? That's one of the most important questions to ask. If they tell you, well, when we find something we like, we will purchase. There's no rush. We're not really looking to buy a house tomorrow morning, or any one of those vibes. You should put a question mark in your head if you really want to work with these people. My opinion, this is what I did. I don't work with buyers that are not ready to purchase like right now, like in the next 2 weeks max. They want to find a house, put an offer, get it over with. If they tell me they have 6 months to purchase, this is one of the questions I ask over the phone, by the way. I will probably not even book the consultation session. Next question. Are you working with any other agents? I don't know why most agents that I know don't ask this question, and it makes no sense. You can actually meet with someone. You do your entire consultation, 45 minutes into it. Suddenly you discover that they have an exclusive agreement already signed with another agent, and here they are in your office or on a Zoom session, trying to get you to work with them. So if they sign an exclusive agreement already with another agent, it is unethical for you to pursue, and you need to drop it immediately. So these are kind of questions I like to ask over the phone. How soon do you want to find and buy a property? Are you working with any other agents? Next question is, how many homes have you seen so far? Why should you ask this question? How many homes have you seen so far? Because number one, you want to know if they just started the process. Number two, you want to know if there are homes that they did not want to purchase for any particular reason. You want to learn all those reasons right from the get-go, because that's going to narrow down the search immediately. For example, if they say, we don't want to be in X, part of X city. For example, I don't want to live on the east side. I don't want to live on the west side. I don't want to be on the south side I don't want to be across the street from the school. I don't want to have the neighbors like this. You're collecting information. So how many homes have you seen so far? And then if you saw a property you like today, are you ready to write an offer today? And if they say yes, of course, if you find something, then you're ready to go. If there is an issue, sometimes they say, well, we're not really ready because my parents are right now refinancing their property so they can give us the money for the down payment. Okay, so let's see how far in the process is that before we actually go out and look for houses. Because if I'm showing you a house you like today and you put an offer right now and you don't have the money for the down payment, we're going to have some issues. So you want to find out the entire story by asking 1,000,001 questions. And then at the end, you figure out the entire picture, which helps you then to really find them something and save a lot of time. You can save a lot of time, guys and girls. I'm talking about narrowing it down to one appointment and you get yourself a contract. All right. Property search questions. Which area are you interested in? Why did you pick this area? You want to know why? How many bedrooms, how many baths, what's the square footage you need? Do you need the garage? Can you quickly describe your ideal home for me? I love that question because it allows them to talk, allows them to share. And while they talk, you can already start figuring things out. For example, what you want to figure out is, where are these people on the DISC profile? If you're meeting with a couple, okay, the husband is what? Analytical. He's asking a lot of questions about numbers and all that info stuff. He doesn't show too much emotions. He's very serious. Okay, that can be an analytical right there. And then if he's approaching you like he's asking you direct questions, now you're switching. Maybe he's not analytical. He's probably a driver. So you want to check things out as you allow them to speak. You want to start paying attention to these things. And that's basically how you will relate to them later on in the process. All right. Why did you pick this area is an important question. Can you quickly describe, we said already, what is the max you are willing to invest? Now, when you purchase a house, obviously, I'll give you one example. We're pre-approved for 500, but we want to purchase at 350. I want to know why. Like if you really are pre-approved for 500, why did you get pre-approved for 500? Did something happen? Maybe something happened that you need to know, because now they're not looking at 500 anymore. They want to purchase something for 350. Let's figure out what's going on. All right, what's more important to you? So you want to narrow down the search, okay? One of the ways to do that is on the description that they give you. You want to ask, what is more important to you? I'll give you one example. So what's more important to you, the size of the home or the location? Because, for example, they say, well, we want a house nothing less than 1,500 square feet. And at the same conversation, they said, we only want in this neighborhood. We don't want to be outside, or we only want to be on the east side of this neighborhood. Okay, so then I'm going to ask them a question. Can I ask you guys a question? Say that I'm doing a search and tomorrow morning there is a new listing come on the market on the east side, okay, so it's where you want to be, but it is 1,295 square feet. Would you go for it? Oh, no chance. We're not going to go for it. We need at least 1,500 square feet. Okay, so on a scale of 1 to 10, the square footage is important at about a 10. Am I right? They say yes. You say, okay, boom, square footage is important. What about the location? What if I find you something like 3 blocks away from the east side? Would you then be willing to look at the house? And they'll be like, oh, well, it depends. Yeah, maybe 2-3 blocks. Yes, we'll look into that. So, okay, we're more flexible on that. So on a scale of 1 to 10, we'll say 7, 8. And you're trying to narrow down the entire search and get closer to what they really, really want. Why do you want to do that? Because you want to save time in the future. You don't want to spend too many days and hours on working the buyers. On average, you're going to work about 15 hours to close a buyer deal, okay? And on average, you're going to work about 5 hours to close a listing deal. That's why we want you to work with listings, because you can do 3 times more listings than buyers. An agent who does 50 buyer deals a year could probably do about 150 listings a year if they know what they're doing. All right, so we narrow it down. The view, what's more important to you, the view or the parking? Well, no, we got to have a parking for sure. Okay, so the view is not as important as the parking, right? Right, okay, good. What's more important to you, the yard or the finished basement? Oh no, we got to have the finished basement. We still need a yard, but if the yard is not huge, we can still take, and you're narrowing down the search. The purpose is to save time. That's why you're doing that, for you and for them. All right, the exclusive buyer agreement, this step is actually separating you from the mediocre agent. All top producers develop the skills needed to convert buyers into exclusive agreements. You want to be the one that does the same. Why? Because it's going to basically secure your money. And I'm going to talk to you about some ratios in a second. Every exclusive buyer agreement with a motivated, realistic, and qualified buyer can turn into a contract. This exclusive, once signed, will assure the buyer is working solely with you and nobody else. When you get an exclusive buyer agreement, they cannot purchase a house without you. What does that mean? Even if they drive by open house over the weekend and they really, really like that house, when they go there, and let's say they went, they, parked the car, they came out, they went inside the house, they met the other agent, they did a walkthrough, they saw the property, now they want to purchase, they have to go through you, and they have to disclose to the other agent that they have an exclusive agent agreement. All right, so what happens when they do that? Statistically, okay, in a seller's, that's why I spoke about buyer's market and seller's market at the beginning. So let's, tie up the ends. When you are working in a seller's market, which is what we are right now, buyers don't have too many options. There's not a lot of inventory out there. Therefore, when you sign exclusive buyer agreements, every single agreement you have, you need to work for these people. All right, you're not going to sign exclusive agreement with a buyer and then just put him in a drawer and go work with everyone else, but that because they sign exclusive agreement, they cannot. When they sign the exclusive agreement, they cannot work with anyone else. Therefore, you cannot sign too many buyers exclusive, because then you do disservice to the client. And if it comes to, for example, someone who signed exclusive with you, you're not really in touch with them, you're not looking, you're not really actively pursuing, searching, etc., they can actually request a release from the agreement, and if you're not releasing them, they can sue you. So you need to be careful. When you sign an exclusive agreement, make sure you sign the agreement with buyers that are ready to buy, like right now, pre-approved, you narrow down the search and everything is good and dandy. Don't just sign up everybody on exclusives, because then you're going to put yourself in a very difficult situation. Don't make too many commitments, okay? And don't overpromise and underdeliver. Do the opposite. So when you're signing a buyer exclusive, for every 5 buyer exclusive agreements, the minimum turnover is 3 deals. In a buyer's market, it can be slightly different because it takes longer to find something. There's a lot more options on the market. In a seller's market, it can be 5 out of 5. So you sign 5 buyer exclusive. And again, it's your decision to make if you want to work with the buyer that you're meeting with. If you know that they're not pre-approved yet, and you know that they're not so realistic, like they want to find a house for 200 and there is nothing in that neighborhood for less than 250, they're not really realistic, you should say next and work with someone else. So when you choose the right buyer, you want to make sure that the buyer is pre-approved. You want to make sure that they're realistic. You want to make sure that they have everything that it takes for them to actually purchase the house and they're ready to go. And that you're talking to the decision makers, because you want to ask them all the questions. So when you can sign 5 buyer exclusive agreements with a motivated, realistic, ready to go, pre-approved buyer who sign exclusive with you, you should put them under contract within 30 days max. I would do it within maximum 7 days. So the difference between how I did, when I was doing between 80 and 110 deals a year, how do I work with buyers? First of all, I would refuse 80% of the buyers because they were, or they were not realistic, or they're not pre-approved yet, or they're not signing exclusive agreement. There's many different questions, or. So I'm going to only work with the ones that I just told you: pre-approved, realistic, motivated, ready to go right now, sign exclusive agreement. Okay, now let's go out there. So I'm going to spend the time to look at the market, which I do every day anyways. I do it twice a day, in the morning before I start working, and at the end of each day, I look at the hot sheet, I look at everything that happened on the market. And then I can get 5 out of 5. So if I find 5 people that match those things I just spoke about, sign them on exclusive agreement, those are 5 contracts. So if I need to add, for example, if I see that this month I didn't get enough listings and I have a quota, I have a goal that I need to meet at the end of the year, I need to close, say, 50 transactions, and I only have 25 listings so far, and I fall behind on my listings this month, I will then go and grab a couple of buyers that match what I just said, sign them up, and go out there, and within 3 to 4 business days, I will close each and every one of them. And we're going to get into contracts. So you can do a lot, you can make a lot of money by doing that. The only thing I don't like about it is you're going to spend about 15 to 20 hours per buyer deal versus 5 hours with sellers. It's obviously a lot more powerful for you to work with sellers. But at the beginning stage of your career, you should divide your time frame 50-50. And as you start growing your listing inventory, you will reduce the amount of time that you're devoting to buyers, probably down to about 80-20, 90-10, hopefully. All right, so let's go into what do you do with the exclusive buyer agreement. So you're going to go over the agreement itself, which is, I think it's 2 pages. You're going to let them read as you explain each paragraph, and then you're going to ask them to sign it. So guys, I'm sending it to you right. Say I'm with them on a Zoom. Hey guys, I'm sending you this right now via email. Okay, so when I go over it, it's actually on my screen, and I do screen share like I'm sharing my screen with you right now. I'll do a screen share. I'm going to go over all the agreement real quickly, and then I'm going to say, you guys ready to go? They say yes. I say, okay, I'm emailing it to you right now. Sign it, send it back to me, and then I wait for them to actually do it. So you see here, wait until they do it. You don't want to let them think it over, or, we want to read it and send it to our attorney, and then if the attorney is agreeing, that to me, right there, next, I'm not interested. All right, I'm looking to do easy transactions. I don't want to grind every single deal with every single buyer, grinding it, convincing and doing sales, and I don't want to do that. I'm looking for easygoing buyers that are, following my guidelines. So you want to wait until they actually sign the exclusive. And then at that point, a motivated buyer should feel privileged to work with you and will sign with ease. When people don't want to sign exclusive is normally when they don't feel comfortable with you. For example, and here is one of the problems we have in our industry in general, and why I don't like, brokerages that don't really train their agents, because they create a problem for everybody else. If 80% of the buyer of the agents, if 80% of the agents never mention a buyer exclusive agreement, and the buyer is contacting 10 agents on Zillow, and then 8 of them never ask for it, the one that's going to ask for the exclusive agreement will look a little bit odd. Like, why are you asking me to sign this? No one else asked me to sign it, blah, 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 blah. So when you have this conversation, just explain to them why you want it signed. There's a couple of good reasons for a buyer to sign a buyer exclusive agreement. I'm going to go over all the benefits. So you might want to prepare ahead of time the benefits of signing an exclusive agreement with you. For example, when you sign an exclusive agreement, buyer agreement with me, here's what I'm going to be doing for you. Every morning at 7 a.m., I'm going to look at the hot sheets. If I find anything that I think is worth looking at, I'm going to look at it first. After I preview the property, I will contact you immediately if I think it's a good match. Number 2, I contact for sale by owners in the area you're looking for. I door knock and I cold call people that are not even listed. Now you tell me if the other agents offer you that. Okay, so these are just some of the things that I do. And then I go over all the benefits. What are the benefits of working with you in an exclusive agreement? You got to have like at least 10, 15, 20 different items. And you go through all the itemized list and then you go for the signature. And again, if they have an issue with that, just move on next. All right, so once the agreement is signed, you start the research process. At step 19, you will be going over buying and process in detail. We're actually at step 16 right now. We're moving along fairly quickly. Let me go back here and open up the microphone now for all your questions. So one by one, questions regarding what we spoke about today.